here we are from the Gym Eat Repeat and Mr. America recording studios. And today we will have on Mike, the superhuman Neumann, and Kent, the King Bierly, talking about all things bodybuilding. So let's get this started and see what these guys are up to. How's it going, Mike?
It's going, glad I can be on the show and glad to be a part of it all. So ready to talk some bodybuilding and get this season heated up.
Yeah, well, I see, you put a lot of stuff out, you're always promoting different things, which is really good. And, you talk about always being a fan of bodybuilding. And, as far as I know, you may be the nation's biggest bodybuilding fan. Whether it's natural bodybuilding or enhanced bodybuilding, whatever the case may be, you're out there and you're all about it all the time. So, having somebody like you on with the experienced eye and the credentials to back it up, and the experience of sitting on, judging panels and emceeing shows is really great to have you and your expertise here today. One of the things, that's really important here, you were the head judge at the Mr. America in 2021.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
You've been around bodybuilding forever. So what was your take when you got that call to be the head judge for the Mr. America?
I feel like, if you have an opportunity, you'll know it when you see it. But if you're not ready for that opportunity, then you won't even know it's there. So when I got the call for that, I kind of felt like I was ready for it because I've judged a bunch of shows. I've judged a bunch of, high-level shows and some enough pro shows. And I feel like the Mr. America is the biggest of them all. And I felt like I was ready for it. So everything I did leading up to that point prepared me for Mr. America. So once I got the call, I just kind of felt like, I just wanted to see him put the best judging panel together possible, and I was glad to be a part of that, call for that.
It was great to have you. The classes that you had to judge were just, they were extraordinary. And, in 2020, when we first brought the event back, my first call was to Kent the King Bierly to be the head judge. And, we didn't know what to expect. We were in a pandemic year. There was people saying not to run the show, that, nobody was going to come, but, it's the Mr. America. Everyone was trying to stand united and stand strong and, get back to a normal way of life. So for me, it was real important that we made that show go on, and being able to have Kent right here is really a blessing for me. And I think for the Mr. America, because, Kent has a lot to offer. Kent's been around since the first Mr. America in 1939. So when you showed up, Kent, and everything was in color, and you sat down at that judging table, how did you feel?
Oh man, Mark, you're a funny guy. Well, actually,
funny.
I thought it was like like the Wizard of Oz when I realized that I went from black and white and I went to color. I'm like, holy cow! I said, we're not in Kansas anymore. I said, this is unbelievable. So I was excited and I didn't know what to expect. But yeah, I was honored to get the call. I had to brush off my dust off my good clothes because I hadn't been out anywhere in so long. So I was happy that I got that phone call for sure.
In 2021, when you left from being the head judge to stepping on stage, I was really, really impressed with your physique. You just came out there with, I don't know, damn near 200 pounds of muscle.
The best thing was I didn't need any oxygen.
No, that was important. That was important. So, you were up there breathing and kicking. Everything was great. So you sit and you judged the Mr. America, right? And to me and many others, and mostly the entire sport, the Mr. America is what started it all, right? So you go from head judging, this top level, the most iconic event in the sport, to stepping on stage at the Mr. America. When you started bodybuilding, was the Mr. America something in your sights that you said to yourself, hey, I need to do this?
I think about the age differences, and to some kids that compete, the Mr. America is just another show, which is sad. I'm a history guy. I love sports. I could name, I go back Giants 1925. I'm a car race fan. I know all the old time drivers. These kids don't even know what Mr. America was. So they're to them, it's just another show. But for a guy like me, for a guy like Farisi, for the guy like Marshall, we know the history. I mean, if you don't know the history of what you're doing, then shame on you, because you look uneducated, that you don't know what's going on. So I know what it means to me. When I was a kid, I mean, for example, Jeff King, he lived a mile, 2 miles from my gym.
Right.
He worked out at a gym. He went to college at Springfield College in Massachusetts. At the same time that I was at the University of Massachusetts, he came to the same gym and worked out, and he was Mr. America. And I was like, Mr. America is working out at the same gym I was. And so, I knew. I don't think it was until the 90s that they actually stopped. I don't know the exact date, but I mean 80s, 90s. I started working out when I was 13. So that was in 1976. So, the Mr. America, they didn't have the Nationals back then. There was no NPC. No. So that was the deal. And then you went on to the universe, and then you went on to the Worlds, and then you went on to the Olympia. So that's what I wanted to do. And that's what everybody that worked out wanted to do. And steroids weren't a front page issue. You didn't have guys dropping dead of heart attacks. You didn't have any of that stuff. The only thing was it wasn't a sport. It was almost like it was, I don't want to say a backroom sport, maybe a basement sport. It was only the people
sport.
Yeah, only the people that knew it and understood it did it. Even guys that played football, they didn't even care about it. They just wanted to be strong. I mean, but there wasn't even weight rooms in the gym, really, in the gym.
Oh, yeah, women didn't catch on until like the mid-90s, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, when Pumping Iron 2 came out, I remember that came out. I was in college, University of Massachusetts, so it's probably, I graduated in 86. I think it came out in like 85, 86 with Bev Francis and Rachel McClish, Carla Dunlap. I mean, and my girlfriend at the time was like, holy cow, and that made her start working out. So, late 80s.
But then you had Jazzercise, you had Richard Simmons, then more women got involved and more normal people got involved.
And you know what
about Gilad Jankowicz?
Yeah, what was neat about the whole Pumping Iron and the Mr. It transitioned a lot of the gyms from being health spas with just machines and Nautilus equipment into bringing more free weights into the gyms, which created better athletes all around. The other sports teams started to realize that weights was the way to go, and then guys started seeing that I can get bigger and more well-rounded by using free weights. So then the sport really took off. The early 90s, it just started going crazy. But
what really scared some people away, though, is they called it bodybuilding, and a lot of people get a little misconstrued with that. A lot of women think that you just got to walk into a gym, and they avoid the gym because they don't want to build muscle because they know bodybuilding. But what if it was called fat burning instead of bodybuilding? Yeah. Would more people get involved? Just the name itself scared people away.
But
and it's funny that you say that, Mike, because it's unique that you, Ken, and we're all gym owners, right? So we're seeing what the people are doing in the gym, and no matter if you're a 13-year-old girl who coming in to get fit for cheerleading or gymnastics, or because you're being dragged in there with mom or dad, or you're a 70-year-old rehabbing a knee or a hip injury. They're both doing the same things, right? The bodybuilders are doing the same things. It's a different intensity, right? It might be more consistency and a different intensity, but like they're squatting, they're bench pressing, they're doing curls, they're doing flies. So there is that notion behind the term bodybuilding that I think you're right, Mike. It does push some people away
because they think I don't want to build too much muscle. Hey, well, don't worry. It takes a lot of hard training and a lot of eating, a lot of calories to get that big. So don't worry, you won't build that much muscle. Because you're not going to work hard enough for it anyway, and then you won't eat. So it takes a lot of hard work to build muscle. They don't get that part, though.
What it is, too, is that, the byproduct, and I think this is how the sport grew so much, is that the byproduct of working out for a sport, the byproduct is getting less body fat. So that's why more and more people started to get into it. And then, of course, the whole science behind it, they started putting studies out that says best way to lose weight is through weight training. Then everybody wanted to do it because who the hell wants to do hours of cardio a day? I'd rather work out for an hour than do 2 hours of cardio. I mean,
so the grapefruit diet and Gilad on ESPN at 7:00 in the morning, that wasn't the best way to go back in the 80s.
I agree, like the grapefruit diet.
Well, Kai Green is
Well, I
into
don't know if
grapefruit
that
for a
was
bunch of different
exactly.
reasons.
I don't know if that was exactly a diet. It may have been something else, but I'm not sure if the diet would be.
You
the
eat like
proper
30
word.
grapefruits a day or something like that.
Well, maybe he went through 30 grapefruits a day.
Kai, if you're out there listening to this, we want to get you on and get some clarification on this. Talking about, back in the 80s and how everything started, really transforming. In the 90s, we started seeing a lot of these mass monsters, right? And more women getting involved. And as the late 90s came along, you had, women's bodybuilding and then fitness and, all of these different categories have emerged. And we have what do we have, like 12 different categories now or 7 different categories? There's a lot of categories. And, there's literally something for everybody at this point. I don't know of a body type that doesn't have a category at this point.
Well, if there isn't one, then we'll create one.
Well, and that's what seems to be.
And that's fine because it draws more people to the sport that wouldn't otherwise be involved. I've never met a bodybuilding promoter that doesn't love what they do. Most people don't just put on a bodybuilding show just to make extra money. They do it partly and so because they love it. So most promoters love what they do. Not all of them want to only make money. They also want to put on a good show too.
And like
stuff's there.
Running the Mr. America, it's a whole different level than I was on running shows prior to this, right? It's between the cameras and TV and television contracts and travel and making sure, we have the top athletes in every category, being represented from every organization. There's so much that goes into an event on this scale than a show that I'm holding, in a small ballroom in a hotel, for one organization. So, when it comes to making money, I'm not good at that. I'm good at spending the money. I'm good at, pulling all of this stuff together, but I'm doing it for the sport because, like Mike said, we do it because we love the sport, right? And as far as this year, we added wellness, right? So in 2023, we're going to have amateur and professional wellness. So that's a great opportunity for, to be the first Miss Wellness America, right? So that's a huge thing. But we didn't add it for money. We didn't add it because everybody else had it. We've been getting requests for it, right? And I said initially that I wasn't going to do it until I had, a certain amount of requests and interest in it. So I'm doing that, as I do many things. I want the athletes to be happy. I want the athletes to be able to have that, that top-notch experience, right? The cameras are going and everything's, scripted and timed out. And like, this is Broadway for bodybuilding. And now that we're offering that, sure, it might bring some more money, but I'm also paying more money, right? It's a whole nother class that has to be paid, so, you guys both know we're not into that overly shredded look, which, could vary from organization.
More muscle.
More muscle, baby. Bring it out. I want round shoulders, big quad sweeps, tiny waist, big lats. Like, we want you to look
barn door backs.
Want to see the hamstrings? The hamstrings.
Yeah, they should be like,
people say the shoulders are won and lost from the back. The hamstrings.
Well, right, and there we go, right? So just like you said, so many shows are won from the back, right? You turn around, somebody, they look like they have 3% body fat from the front. They turn around, it looks like they haven't done anything.
They're first from the front.
A lot of shows are won from the back.
Yeah.
But when you're sitting there, and you both had judged, you're looking at the top athletes in our sport. I mean, there's a huge East Coast, West Coast rivalry. And as it looks over the past 3 years in the Mr. America, nobody from the East Coast got first place in the Pro Open anyway. We had Joe Farisi, awesome competitor in the Masters.
He's a tough competitor,
right?
man.
He's a Jersey guy.
Yeah. So I've seen Farisi on stage 3 times now. The best time I seen him was the first time I seen him. And the second best was at the Natural Olympia. So I seen him at his worst the second time in Mr. America. He looked a little bit better at the Natural Olympia. But Farisi is a tough competitor every time he comes out.
What are you looking at? How are you disseminating, that first place from second place? What attributes really stick out to each of you where you're like, hey, this is close, but
well, I don't know about Chad, but I always tell people and competitors, the most important pose is the front standing relaxed, because that's the pose we see them in the most. It's our first impression. So when an entire class of 20 comes out and they stand in that front standing relaxed pose, I'm thinking, okay, who gets my attention? When I look at this whole entire group, which one or two or three stand out? So that's how I kind of get things rolling. And then we move them around from there. And then we see if the back matches the front. But that's my first initial look, is that look in the front standing relaxed pose.
Yeah, well, you want to see that first impression when they come out. But then sometimes the guys, they look impressive from the front. Then they turn to the side. Everybody's got a different variation of their side relaxed pose. I probably have changed mine about 5, 6, 7 times over my how many years of competing. But yeah.
How many years, Kent, is that?
I started first show as I was 17. I will be 60 this year. So
43 years.
43 years.
Holy
year,
shit.
when I turn 60, I will have competed in 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 6 decades.
Did you compete a lot as a teenager?
I did a couple shows when I was 17, 18, 19. I went my first show at 19, NPC show at 19. It was, all it was bodybuilding, so that was fun. And then during college, I competed maybe 2 or 3 times a year. But once I got out of college, I competed more often. But I took 10 years off from 30 to 40.
Right.
Back in the teenage years, that's what you got as NPC. So I came up on NPC. Yeah. I didn't know about natural bodybuilding until I was 19 years old. So by then, I had 5 years from the time I was 14 until 19 of just NPC, IFBB, Flex Magazine, Muscle Development, all that stuff, So I did NPC back in the day, too. So I kind of got a heart for the NPC.
I'm going to be 60, so I have, I got some milestones I want to do. I want to do it as a 60-year-old. Marc won't, put a 60-plus class, but...
No, I just added the 50-plus class this year also.
Yeah, 50-plus is good,
listen,
man.
Here's the thing.
Marc,
if you're not great at 60, then just jump in the 50s.
Come on, so 50 is not... 60 and 50, that's freaking... That's
not
like
you're 60.
That's all.
Hey, Mike, it sounds like Bierly subscribes to the everybody gets a trophy.
Why do I have to be punished?
Shit, didn't you get in the top 5 anyway last year?
Yeah, but I want to win, Mike. God damn it.
Damn.
So we can't just create a class
a 60
to make it easier.
In the class by himself.
This is the Mr. America. Ken, the body that you come on stage with, you're blowing the doors off of 20-year-olds. Let's be realistic here.
Yeah. You did separate those quads. That was good to see.
Well, I did that because you yelled at me last year, Mike. I'm driving to North.
I'm glad you listened. Hey, somebody's got to tell you how it is, man. Everybody else tells you look good as you are. I got to tell you otherwise.
I'm driving to North Carolina for a show, and I got 8 hours, 9 hours to kill, and you were doing your recap of the Mr. America. I think I told you that when I saw you later that night, at the last one. And you asked me, what did I do to get my quads tighter? I'm like, Mike, I fucking listened to you last year. You told me to do these leg extensions and do it before I worked out and after I worked out and squeeze them until you can't squeeze anymore. So I did it. So I thanked you.
And you always did them after. See, I always do extensions first, but you've always done them last.
Yeah,
until just recently.
I do them. Yeah, I do them. That's usually the last exercise I do for my quads.
Yeah, that would. Yeah,
but
that
I
way
did, and
actually,
it made sense for me too because being older, I need to lube up my legs.
Lubricate those joints.
So
probably not all you need to lube.
Or you do your own prep.
No, I do my own prep.
Ken, you brought up a good point. So you've head judged. You're a competitor. So, like shit, you might be sick getting on stage because your immune system's just in the tank from being so damn lean and hungry, right? So when you're judging people, I'm assuming that's something that you may look at. But where I'm going with this is you ask the judge for some feedback. Well, maybe you didn't ask him, but Mike, he put it out publicly. Bierly needs more separation in his quad.
I want to see him win. Here's what you got to do, whether you're asking for it or not.
I know. If you're a competitor and Mike Neuman's gonna be on that judging panel, you better bring those quads.
Well, yeah, you gotta know your judging panel. You gotta know what they're looking for. And I know he wants hamstrings, and my hamstrings are probably the most developed, maybe besides Meshack and Prince on that stage. And I know he likes the upper tie-ins but I also knew that I needed to be leaner. So I took that. I took his advice and I ran with it. But I knew last year, because it was my first show in 7 years, I needed to be leaner. So I came in at like 3 or 4 pounds leaner. And then when Minneapolis, I was even leaner than that. I was 154 pounds. I can't remember last time. I was maybe.
I know. I didn't realize you could get that low, man.
It's just crazy.
Yeah, Bierly was shredded.
It's just crazy. But then you got to figure, I look at the pictures and I'm like, I don't know if I left some size out there, but you get that fine balance. It's like,
that's something that, you have to sacrifice. Are you going in with that fuller look, or are you going to dig deep and try to come in that much leaner? And that goes back to what I was saying before, how some organizations, you have to show up there just absolutely diced and shredded to the bone.
Well,
to get a second look.
A lot of it might depend on the judging panel too. A judging panel shouldn't require you to look like a lean swimmer. If they put the lean swimmer over the muscular guy that's got the body fat level, then maybe it's just a judging panel.
And maybe that's not a bodybuilding show, right? That's a diet contest or a dieting organization. Maybe some of these organizations that are out there, they should just, I don't know, do Nutrisystem competitions or there are
times though that you get a lean conditioned swimmer, but then the muscular guy is just not lean enough. You know what I mean? So that happens too. Yeah. As long as it doesn't happen when the guy is
follow
lean
the criteria, enough. And it's important to know where are you going, right? Like they got the Mr. America, let's say. Everybody know I want muscle. I don't want
muscle.
I don't want my bodybuilder winner to be 126 pounds at 5'9". That's not what we're looking for. That's not the look.
That's a different class.
Not a representation of
go to Mr. and put the shorts on.
But you know what? This is the dilemma that you get in with that is you take, for example, I'll use myself as an example. I looked at myself and I'm like, I was full. I mean, I always have a problem. The guys always have a problem eating too much, not eating enough. So I made sure for me. See, I use the shows as stepping stones. I always correct what I think that I needed to do. So when I was in Minneapolis, I knew that I could be leaner, but I also knew that I could have eaten more, or I know I could have eaten more for the Mr. America. But also too, my advantage in Minneapolis is that we didn't go on till later. Mr. America, I think we were on earlier. So, and I got up early. So I know I could be fuller, but I needed to be leaner because I wanted the cuts. I wanted the striated glutes. I wanted the tie-ins. I wanted my Christmas tree to pop. So I look at the pictures. In some pictures, I feel like I was flat. But in some pictures, I thought it was like my back. I think my back is always my best thing. My back was full. I put some pictures on Instagram the other day. My traps were striated. I've never seen striated traps before. So it's like you have to take away something to improve something. So that's the balance of the sport. Now, also, too, you bring up the judge. Judges judge based on what they look like. That's just the bottom line. That's just the bottom line. You can look at a judging panel and know what they're looking for. If you see it, I don't want to. If you see women on the judges panel, they look for something different, subconsciously, whatever it is, than a guy like me would look for. I look for muscle first, but then I'm like, okay, do they have the conditioning? If they turn around and you see nothing, then I'm like, well, okay, well, he doesn't have it there. But it's just you don't want the tall swimmers.
One of the best things promoters can do for competitors is have a bona fide, qualified judging panel. And they need to do everything in their power to have the best judges they can that'll call it right. So we can't have competitors dieting down for 6 months only to get the wrong call. We got to do our best to get them the right call. What's your take? You both promote. What do you think about, he got a judge, maybe his scores or her scores are off by more than 2 points from all the other judges. Do you demote them, not ask them back? How do you handle something like that?
I've had judges that I haven't invited back. I have had judges that I'll have every time. There's certain judges, whether male or female, they're just on the money all the time. I'm constantly test judging people, having people
We
test
like them on the money.
Yeah, I bring people in to test judge all the time. I always ask people from other organizations. See, I can cherry pick from other organizations, because we're relatively still new. So there's a lot
take
of
the best of where you can find them from.
yeah, and then they like
Right.
our shows, so they want to come back. So I've had some of the same ones for years, and then I rotate some of the other ones. And
Well, and that's like Ken. I know you do the same thing I do. You have a point system also,
right.
right? So you're not just sitting there and saying, okay, Jimmy's got first place and Nikki's got second place and Vito's got third place and Peter's got fourth place. No. The judges, you need to quantify why you're putting that person in that place, right? And which is why, we did the point system, and historically the Mr. America had a point system, right? You had to, get a certain amount of points, whoever had the most points in that would win. But we also are doing things a little bit more modern also. So we're still placing the competitors. Right. So we're still placing the competitors, but now each judge, by assigning those points, is justifying why they have, Sally in first place and Susie in second place. So I haven't had a problem. And the amount of judges that we put on our panel. So if we have 9 judges, which we've had, even in 2020, I think we had 9.
No test judges, though, right? You just 9 qualified judges that you swap in and out.
No test judges at the Mr. America. If you're going to sit at that table at the Mr. America, you better have experience. You better know what you're looking at. This show is too important, not only to the competitors, but to me. I want to walk away knowing I did the best that I possibly could do for the event. So I have 9 judges. Prior to showing up, every score sheet, whether it's highlighted or circled or there's a little red mark on the bottom or something, it's already placed in somebody's folder that those two of the judges definitely don't count no matter what. Right. They don't count no matter what.
I like showing up and all the work's just done.
Right. And then the 7 judges that are left, obviously you drop the high and the low, right? And we come up with the score. So we're doing everything we could to take out bias and to justify placings. So I know I've been very, very happy with the judging panel. There's been calls that I personally didn't like, but the judges, that's the way they win. So, who the hell am I? I'm just the promoter. I'm the one, doing the shit. So, and getting the phone calls after the fact.
Yeah.
But I know that if, there was an unanimous decision, and I'm like, I don't fucking like it. Well, that's my problem.
Yeah, like, what the hell do you know? You're an idiot.
People talk about how can we make bodybuilding more popular, right? How can we get people more interested in watching bodybuilding shows? Because it can be really boring for those in the audience, and if they don't have a good time, they might not go to their loved one's second, third, or fourth show. So how can we make it more fun? Well,
both you and Kent do a great job on the microphone, whether, you're educating or cracking jokes.
That's big.
And just keeping things
and
moving along.
And all that. But how can we engage them? I think if they had their own scorecards, something like that, or I think the competitors deserve an explanation myself, which is why I have my live shows after all the shows I judge. Because that way, how I had it, I'll tell you why you got fifth. Here's why I think you got fifth. I'm just one point. I'm just one judge, but here's why I think you fell to fifth. And I like to explain it to them because I think competitors deserve to know why exactly they finished third. Not because your conditioning was off or whatever. Give them the real lowdown on why that is. I think they should get it next. So if we showed the scorecards to the audience or let them have scorecards or explained why competitors fell to where they did, that could make it more interesting for the casual fan to keep watching.
Well, and right now in most bodybuilding organizations, the judging panel is like the fucking Supreme Court. Your judges are going to make the decision. The judges are like untouchable, and I do like having that separation. I got to be honest with you. I don't think every athlete should just have unfettered access to the judges because you do have some judges, they're great judges, but give ridiculous feedback or say things that they shouldn't say.
I wonder if they know what they're saying.
Right. It makes the whole panel look bad. It makes the event look bad. A girl, says, oh, well, why did I get third place? Well, you could be honest.
As a judge, you have to be able to explain that stuff.
Yeah,
but I think competitors should get feedback not from the judges, but from their coaches. The coaches should know. And if you listen to the wrong judge, it gives you the wrong feedback, it can really mess up your year.
Show me a coach on Sunday morning after an event.
Show me the money.
That's not claiming that the judging sucked and their client should have won and fuck that organization and I'm not going back to that show. They don't know what they're looking at.
Politics.
Right. So if you want the coach to explain, maybe that might not be the right idea either. Because every coach says, "Oh no, I'm really honest with my athlete." Until your athlete doesn't win.
You know,
just build muscle, get more conditioned, work on your weak areas. That's it. Ken, what's your take on all this?
Well, you're the person getting on stage basically naked, right? You're asking a bunch of people you don't know or you might know that you're asking them to judge you. And everything was great. Everybody had a good time until you lose. And then you're all pissed off. And then you ask a judge, and the judge, sometimes they'll give you good feedback. I always instruct my judges, you give positives and negatives, and that's it. You don't tell them how to work out. You don't tell them how to diet.
Then one negative.
Yeah, well, that's good too. So, and then that's it. And if they complain, then they can contact me, and then I'll look at the scores. I'll send them the scores. I've asked to see scores from that show in October, and I never saw them.
I love scorecards.
I'm like, here's the scores. Oh, well, this and that. I said, hey, look, I said, you know what? Maybe you want to try judging next year. That's how you get a lot of judges. They get all pissed off. Why don't you come judge? You can see for yourself. Not so easy.
Now, what about as judges? About like a veto power? Like back in the day, we had pre-judging during the day. We'd get together as a judging group, share our numbers, add everything up, figure everything out. Then we would all find out together who placed where. That would be the time to have the conversation. Does this guy belong in first place?
It's funny. It's funny that you say that, right? Because you have the school of thought that every judge has their own vote, right? And the head judge's vote
one man, one vote,
right? It's not stronger than anybody else. But then you have the people that say the judges shouldn't even be talking at the table, right? And it shouldn't be a consensus, right? You shouldn't have to, be like, oh, who, hey Ken, who do you have in first place? Oh, okay, I'm gonna put him in first place too. Like it shouldn't be that either, right? So I like the anonymity behind it, right? Like you don't know what the judge, or you shouldn't know what the judge, 2 seats down from you voted. And I mean, even if you do, it doesn't change the outcome. But everybody should have their own opinion, which is why there's so many judges, right? So I haven't run into too many instances where it became a problem where, say judge 2, 3, and 4, because they were sitting next to each other, all went one way, and 5, 6, and 7 went another way because they were sitting next to each other. I've never seen that. So, some of the athletes that I've heard complaining about, oh, well, the judges were talking and they both voted for the same people because whatever. Like, I actually haven't seen that ever on my score sheets.
That's why you got to get the qualified judges, because there are judges who aren't too sure of themselves. They're newer judges. They don't want to get it wrong. They don't want to be the only one who chooses a certain competitor, so they kind of copy. It does happen, but those are the ones that shouldn't be at the table. If they got a copy off the judge next to them, they're not ready for an official judging spot yet. They should still be a test judge.
So as head judges, it's at the Mr. America, right? Because you both have judged for me. Ken, you've competed in the shows. As a judge, what did you think of the rest of the panel that you've worked with? So Ken, I got your 2020 and Mike in 21.
Yeah, I don't know if I got a chance to compare the scorecards. Did I or didn't I? If I did, it wasn't an issue.
Well, right. And so, but what about the outcomes, versus, what you had as the head judge and supposed to be the most experienced guy?
Because I chose Corey Brown that one year, and one other judge on the panel did too. So I wasn't the only judge who chose Corey, but it was so close between him and Levi. And I think only one other judge chose Levi. I'm not sure how that went out but that's just how the cookies crumbled there. So that's how I had it. Because I had that's my whole top 5 was right on.
Right.
And for the most part,
what about you, Ken? Have you noticed anything, in particular where you're like, hey, this panel sucks, or hey, no, Marc should get rid of this person because they don't know what the fuck they're looking at?
No,
I remember, it was pretty consistent. There wasn't really any glaring. Now, remember back in 2020, there wasn't as many people on stage,
right?
So the talent pool was, was smaller, but it was. I mean, like Joe Lasara, beating
Brandon Lirio.
Brandon. I mean, that was close. I mean, it was like, half it. That was probably the closest decision of the day. And then
Yeah.
But yeah, it was.
Oh,
like
Lucera and that was a tough one, man.
Yeah. So
that
it
split
was
down the middle. Lirio must have got a couple of judges.
that was real close.
Yeah, it was close. Joe beat him out by a point.
Yeah, that was
was his first. He had 17 wins in a row, and then he lost. That was Lucera. Good one.
I think the figure was close. That was when Jenna and
Jenna
Christina.
and Christina.
That
right?
was like that was. Well, it was
we ended up with a dead tie. It had to go to a rejudge.
We had to rejudge it. Yeah, so the judges handled that well, and it was good. I mean, the judges, whenever you have to do a rejudge, I mean, if you don't want to feel like, oh, is my score right or wrong? I think the judges all stayed with their same scores, and it just somehow we.
Well, so basically, what happened there was
you went by a point. You did the points.
Well,
right?
yeah, we went to the points, right? And the judges that sat out now get included,
right,
and you end up with your outcome,
right.
But part of the reason I did that, Tara came up to me and said, "Hey, listen, we have a tie. What do you want to do?" I don't want to do anything. What do you want to do? So,
well, that's what I'm saying.
This is where a situation like that, I personally would like to leave that up to the head judge. It's your call. You're the head judge. What did you have?
Well,
right?
check this out. The head judge, I would ask that too.
But for optics, because I want everybody to know this is the most fair competition you could go to.
The most fair you're ever going to find ever, anywhere.
Fuck it. Let's judge it again.
.com.
Right. Let's judge it again. I have no problem doing that. And the outcome's the outcome, but it's got to be done right.
Yeah.
So
you have to stand. You have to stand
that's what
by
I'm
it.
saying. Veterans deserve the best judging panel you can possibly put together.
Yeah.
That way, they're going to get the right call. They might not like it, but these are the most qualified judges that I could possibly put together.
They're making the decisions.
Tough competition.
So I'm glad to hear that. I was actually expecting to hear, you should really get rid of so and so. But I mean, you guys are.
No, I think because I like how you have different organizations represented.
Well, we try to get the different organizations represented. Somebody possibly like this starts getting hectic. Like, hey, I want a male bodybuilder on there. I want a female bikini competitor on there.
Yeah, bodybuilders don't always make the best judgment.
I want to make sure everybody's represented.
Everybody,
male, female. So I do my part with that. And I think that's been going pretty well. And Bierly's going to be back on stage. So now, Kent, you competed 2 years in a row at the Mr. America. You weren't totally thrilled in 2021, right? You wanted to do better. Obviously, you always wanted to do better. You get some advice from the head judge from that show. You come back better. What was your take? So you're standing on stage now. Now your second time standing on the iconic Mr. America stage. You're looking out into that giant auditorium, looking at these judges. Are you thinking, wow, I hope these judges don't fuck this up?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. I've been in a lot of shows where the judges were disasters, but I knew a lot of the people from the sport. Some of them I never met personally. No, I was comfortable with who was there, but again, I know how certain people, just by looking at them, how they're going to score and what kind of physique they'll be looking for. I mean, it's just you gotta know. Just like if you're a lawyer, you gotta know your jury. You gotta know what to say. I know, looking down, I know what people are going to look for. So Mike, you're right.
What? I missed it. Thanks.
So I know you know what people are going to look at. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Hold on a second.
So
Mike, what the hell happened? Did you just fall off the couch?
I'm readjusting. No, I'm readjusting everything. Don't worry me.
Ken was just talking about, what he thought about the judges, when he looks out and sees these people.
All right, so the judges, I tell people all the time when my clients or really anybody to go. There's two things I tell them to do. I said, you want to go out on the stage, see the lights, see where the judges are sitting, and I said, and if you know ahead of time, what is it?
I'm trying to get this camera resituated, man. I'm getting there.
So if you know who the judges are, you have to kind of like play to who they are and kind of figure out what they will be looking for, because you can just tell. You gotta read your jury. You gotta see who's judging you. That's why people pay people a fortune for jury consultants. So it's the same thing. You should hire a judge consultant, and you could guarantee what these people are going to look for, because it's
and that's a huge difference, from an very experienced competitor who's been around a long time, like yourself,
very long time,
knowing, like, hey, that's valuable fucking information that you need to convey that to the younger athletes, right? Like, people don't understand that. People don't understand that. Like, wow, when Neumann's the head judge, I better make sure I hold my quads.
He's looking for hamstrings.
Well, you guys, like, Kent, you'll say it too. Lirio lost in 2020 to Joe Lacerda. He wasn't holding his poses, and I think had he held his poses, it was lights out for Joe.
Yeah, that was. You talk about a person that should have won close, but should have won. Yeah, it's amazing how you get taken out of your game. It's almost like you get psyched out, because I don't think he expected Joe to even come close to him, but Joe came out amazing.
Of nowhere.
Came out amazing. You just don't know.
So I know you do coaching, I do coaching. So some of the things, like, maybe because we're older, right? Maybe it's got to be because we're older, right? It's the experience that comes with that ripe old age. I'm doing the same thing as you are. I'm giving my clients and athletes information like, hey, we're going to this show. This organization's looking for this. This is how we're going to prepare, right? We know what we're looking for going in. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you guys as head judges on here, because, everybody out there, whether they've competed at the Mr. America or they're thinking about competing at the Mr. America, they should know from top judges in our sport, like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is how I'm judging you, right? So now I know that you're both looking for that.
What the fuck?
For everybody out there that can't view this right now, that you're just listening maybe in your headphones or in your car.
Here, man.
Mike, the superhuman Neumann is a fucking disaster right now.
Available at the end of this year, only on the highlight reel will you see this.
Oh my God! What the hell are you doing?
But thanks for watching.
Here, we can do this. There you go.
So so giving that valuable information to some of the younger competitors, like, hey, maybe explore who won last year, what did they look like, who could possibly be judging. Hey, contact the promoter and ask. However, I do have a little issue with that, right? As we've seen in some recent articles, which I brought up when I was speaking to Tara last time, there could be some improprieties, when you know who the judges are, right? And Ken, I'm sure you see it, as a president of an organization, you don't see Mike Smith from December till June anywhere. All of a sudden, June 1st, prepping for the King's Cup, ANBF, here I come. June 2nd, June 3rd, June 4th, June 5th. Like, we know what's going on. Like, I appreciate the promotions, right? All that's great. It's great for the athlete. Yeah, I want to see the athletes before they get there too. However, there's judges that I found in my past that have reached out to athletes that have done that and said, hey, so I'm one of the judges at this show. How you doing? Like, it's fucking creepy. It's fucking creepy, but our world is so small and so connected, via social media and everything, that you can't really stop it. But I know of an organization, I'm not going to put it out there, that 2 judges, they've been banned from the organization for doing some things that were a little fucking questionable.
But at the end of the day, it's up to the promoter to put the judging panel together, right?
Right. Yeah.
So if the promoter wants to see the beginning of the end, then he's going to put those judges on his panel. If he wants to show it keep going and prosperous forever, he's going to have to kick those kinds of judges out if he knows about it. If he allows it to keep going, then I can understand why it wouldn't be around in a few years. But it's
I'm glad to see things like that happen. And I'd be the first one to do that too. Like, if an athlete comes to me and says, oh, Judge so-and-so reached out to me and said that they were judging your event, you know, and was trying to make conversation with me, you know what? That judge is done. Like, it just doesn't look right.
I mean, you know, you can encourage competitors to compete in a show, but you can't just promise them a win. Hey, come compete in the show and they'll give you a win. Because everybody's going to know, the audience is going to know, people are going to know if you got to really win that class.
Well, and the best part about it is, even if that one judge showed favoritism, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter because you have 5 or 7 or 8 other judges also making that call,
exactly.
right? So
if one judge screws everything up, the other judges will get it right, and the average will make it all work in the end.
It's up to the judges at the end of the day where you are, right? Yeah. Because I do want to make sure everybody's in the right division, right? Everybody's stepping on stage, and you know, I don't need Meshach showing up in board shorts saying, "Oh yeah, but this new online coach I hired said I'd be great for men's physique." You know, and like I see that all the time. I'm real big on experienced judges, experienced coaches. I want every athlete to have the absolute best outcome they could possibly have, you know, through the prep, on stage, off stage, after the show, which is why I make myself so accessible throughout all of that. I have no problem helping a guy or girl out, you know, and, you know, giving them my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's only fair to give them their proper placing. And, you know, if a judge gives a competitor a placing higher than they deserve, that's not doing them any favors for life lessons.
No.
They're making it have to be too easy, and it can have negative implications going down the road, going further, although they had their moments, undeserving. Right. So, yeah, I just, it's most important that we get qualified judges who give the competitors the placing they deserve.
I have a question. The Mr. America this year, you're talking about amateurs one day and pros the next, or are you still thinking about that?
There are some rumors that I've also heard about amateurs on one day and pros the next. You know, so right now I believe we're looking, and it's for a variety of reasons. So I'll be, you know, completely transparent. The expo is going to be so big this year. There's going to be so many sports happening this year.
Top 3 biggest expos in the entire nation.
Yeah. So, you know, we have boxing this year. We have U.S. Ninja this year.
Sumo wrestling.
Sumo wrestling.
Hell
the Filipino
yeah.
like, everything that was there last year is going to be there this year.
Yeah.
And we've added. We're doing 2 days of amateur boxing.
Mike's going to do mud wrestling.
I'm refereeing the mud wrestling, Ken.
Oh, right.
Don't go spreading rumors. Only refereeing.
Yeah, so it's going to be so big, and I want every athlete to be able to go to that. Right? So last year, my mistake, poor scheduling, maybe people noticed, maybe they didn't. We had the bodybuilding running all day Saturday.
So I missed
with a lot of the main events that were happening in the expo. So our intent this year is amateurs. Now, this is not definite, but possibly Friday night and pros Saturday. Well, pros are going to be Saturday night regardless, but it's just a matter of if we run the amateurs Friday night or, you know, Sunday morning. But the main reason is they need to be going to these things, right? Natural bodybuilding needed this Arnold-esque feel, right? We didn't have that.
Yeah.
So I'm creating that. You know, we have, you know, all the sports, multiple days, tons of vendors, tons of sponsors, like you name it. It's happening. It's happening. You know, when you come to the Mr. America, every company that's there, every sport that's there, they're all there for the same reason. They're all supporting you. So let's this year, you know, make sure we go back and we support them. You know, so I think breaking up the bodybuilding, you know, is one of the best ways to do that because all the other sports will be at the expo.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that.
One of the reasons why I brought that up is that you're going to have a whole bunch of quality judges competing on Saturday. Maybe you could grab some
for the amateurs,
right?
Yeah.
Which I think would
Judge
give
Friday,
give
Saturday.
the competitors, like, they'd be excited. All these amateurs being judged by all these top pros
that are competing. That guy just judged me last night. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, so, you know, and this past year, the format that we used was, you know, I think it went over great. You know, amateurs got to mingle with the pros backstage. You know, it was, I loved it, and that's what it's all about. You know, we want to create this bigger family, bring more people together, you know, all under
the more the merrier.
Umbrella, right? It's one day, everybody gets along. You know, everybody drops their flag for the day. You know, and that's what this is about. So I mean, we're moving in the right direction, and you know, having guys like you involved. You know, whether I mean, Kent, you're going to be running an event at the event this year, also.
AAU,
You know, so having guys
AAU
like you,
powerlifting.
yeah, and that's going to be Sunday, correct?
Sunday, yes.
Yeah.
Only if you get me a crew to help me move shit around.
All those muscles you fucking show up with.
It killed me last year. I wanted to fucking strangle you.
It's good to see the AAU part of all this.
Yeah,
I didn't know your AAU show back in the day.
All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Jimmy Eat Repeat, the podcast. We look forward to having everybody back. If you have any questions or comments, let us know. You can reach us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. We want to thank Kent, the King Bierly, and the ANBF. Mike, the superhuman Neumann, for being on tonight. And we look forward to getting some more valuable insight from both of you this year.
All right. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
One time.